Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 10th International IPM Symposium Awards Submission Webinar, where myself, Janet Hurley, and Dr. Shakun Nayar from University of Arizona, I'm from Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, will go over what you need to know about submitting an IPM Symposium Award. This is a really great program, and I am so happy to have everybody. If you've got questions, go ahead and drop them into the chat pod. Depending on what your questions are, we'll either try to answer them as they come up or at the end, or I may be able to get you to be unmuted and ask directly. But this is somewhat formal, informal. It's an idea of being able to give you the idea of how do you submit the award, what it takes, and then all the fun stuff afterwards. So let's get started. So how do you complete the award application? Well, first you got to figure out who you're going to nominate. While some people like to self-nominate, I will tell you the awards that win generally are not self-nominations, because the people that nominate that individual will highlight the IPM practices that are most important. But overall, we asked for a lifetime achievement. Last time at the 9th International IPM Symposium, we actually awarded 2 individuals. Since we meet only every 3 years, our committee decided that recognizing just one person every 3 years was a little bit selfish. So based on our rankings, we were actually able to award 2. Depending on how nominations come in this time, that may also be an option. The next 2 awards, IPM Practitioner-Academic and IPM Practitioner-Non-academic, which is new, is a split. And I will go into the split later when I go through these 2 awards. But what we realized is we needed to have a category for those of us who work in extension research, that type of arena, and then for those individuals who work out in the field, either they're an IPM coordinator for a district or university, or they work in as a crop advisor or something like that. Those 2 jobs are different, and we decided to split it so that applicants would have a choice and a better way to showcase some of our boots on the ground people. The IPM team or group, we've had this award for years. The best awards, and I'll go into this later, typically showcase a project. So for instance, we've had brown marmorated stink bugs, we've had coddling moth, you'll see a couple of others, but typically these projects, these teams, these groups are multidisciplinary, all right, and that they cover a specific type topic. And then finally, the graduate student, which we added last symposium, and we're bringing back by popular demand. Well, by gosh, you guys can nominate a master's or a PhD student. Everything has been moved to Qualtrics. That was one of the things we did this last time. And what we're doing again this symposium, and probably will keep moving forward, is to be able to do this digitally. And what I mean by that is being able to put all of your submissions in one platform, kind of like a grant platform, and then us be able to take that information and then generate the reports. This is what the survey would look like when you get in. If you are, and hopefully you can see my little mouse, I have to put it up here on the turquoise, but this left side of the screen is what you would see if you were going to do it online. The right side, yes, it is mobile friendly because Qualtrics is mobile friendly. You would see what it would look like on a phone or a tablet. More than likely, most of us will want to do it on a hard device like a laptop, at least, because I will say this, I mean, 500 words is still 500 words. Every applicant is asked this series of questions. This is how, if you know anything about Qualtrics, this is how we start sorting and being able to run reports. So if you're going to nominate lifetime achievement, graduate student, practitioner, or academic, non-academic, and then team or group, whichever way. And then if you are in the United States or you outside, the reason we say United States and Canada versus outside is sometimes, especially when we talk about the USDA roadmap for IPM and some of the other things that we use for ranking, is not widely adopted outside of the United States. Therefore, we do look at those applications a little bit differently, but we do make sure that anybody coming in that is applying always follows at least the basic tenets of integrated pest management by using multiple control tactics, multiple team members, and showcasing some type of impact. And again, impact we'll go into is a little bit different depending on what you're doing. Finally, the one thing, and this is mostly for, I would say, bookkeeping, if you really want to put this in a perspective, when we're wanting to know if you're coming, it helps us decide how we will do stuff. I also sit on the finance committee, so if we're struggling because somebody has gotten an award, but they may have trouble traveling, well, do we need to consider getting a sponsor for that? I mean, that's something that the committee would have to look at down the line, but this gives us an idea. I mean, if you're like me and you come to this conference time and time again, well then yeah, I would definitely check the yes, because this has been on my calendar since I left Baltimore. I wouldn't miss the International IPM Symposium for anything. Let's pray we don't have any more viruses. All right, so as you get into the application, who's the nominator? Who is actually submitting the application? The reason being is if you were doing this, especially on lifetime achievement, or maybe on a practitioner, maybe you don't want to tell them because you don't want to get their hopes up. So you do all the nominating, and for the record, you would be the first person our committee would contact as well. If your applicant has been awarded and or declined, the nominator is who the committee reaches out to. Okay, we wait to talk to the nominee afterwards. We will let the nominator know first so that there's no surprises down the road. Sorry, still need to hydrate. All right, so let's talk about lifetime achievement. Again, this is probably one of the better categories that we have always had good submissions for, basically because when you're looking at a lifetime achievement, we are looking for an individual that has had a career. Career does not mean 5 years, folks. I will be very honest. We look at somebody who has 20, 25, 30 years. I mean, the last couple of awardees, 35, 40 years of a career. So lifetime achievement is just that. We give you a little bit more wiggle room on things that you can submit, one of them being we have got to have their vita. That is a full, complete vita. So this is one of those you might not be able to sneak up on somebody, but then again, it depends. If you were the department head and you were doing one of your employees who was retiring and you had their current vita, well, you could easily submit and they never know. But for the most part, most people are going to have to give you that. Now, describing the goals of the nominees program. Typically, a lifetime achievement individual has more than one program. So, and I will show you in a little bit exactly how we want some of that, but you can also go to our past awardees and see how things are written. But we really want to know what this individual has done over their career, their lifetime. Describe their level of integration across pests, commodities, systems, or disciplines that were involved. I mean, looking at Frank, I mean, he used different people. I mean, one of the things that I can definitely chime in on Frank was one of his achievements was he was one of the co-creators of the IPM Symposium. So again, not only did he have a career in entomology and crop type pests, but he also had a foundation on something like the International IPM Symposium. But it's not just that. I mean, individuals can have other things. Again, if they're in a plant pathologist or they're a soils person, you know, highlighting that career. Describe the team building. There is no I in IPM. It is all about team. I am here to tell you, and I want you to hear this now, and I want you to hear it later. When we look at these packets, one of the scoring requirements is what kind of team building did you do? Because IPM can't be done in a vacuum. It is done through working with others. Display that. We need to know that in that 250 words or less. What outcome best describes the success of the program? Well, for a lifetime person, it could be, did they do something? Did they change something? What actually happened? I mean, George Norton and Frank Zolom had some very key things that were done in their career in the world of entomology. That's creating an impact or an outcome. And then providing that change. That's pretty easy because generally on somebody with a lifetime, there are documents and or reports or websites or something that these individuals have worked with. And again, you can use that to help us get a sense of what that individual's achievements are. And then, like I said, finally, this is the only one that we really require a vita. Now, the practitioner for academic. From our last symposium, this was Dr. Dawn Gouge. She happens to be in good company. There has been a lot of people that have been nominated and put forth. Again, the clincher is the reports, the nominations were not written by one individual, but by a collaborative team. In other words, maybe for, and I can speak on this one, for Dr. Gouge, it was others within the school IPM and community IPM world that knew her, worked on her application, unbeknownst to her, submitted it, and she was really floored when she found out she was awarded. But again, we described what her background or practice is. Dr. Gouge, because of what she does in school and community IPM, public health IPM, that's where they focused on. The contribution to IPM to local or regional area, again, Dr. Gouge has sit on the National School IPM Committee. She's done a lot of things in Arizona. She's done some other things with the National Environmental Health Association. So all of that was put into her nomination packet. Again, the outreach and educational programming. And then this is a little bit more when we start diving in, and this is why when you look at the academic and then when we look at the non-academic, you're going to see here's where the difference is. So for instance, and I may be calling out a couple of people because I can see names on here, but for instance, if I was picking on if I was going to nominate Dr. Deanie Miller, because I can see her name on here, hey Deanie, and I was going to nominate Deanie, well, what I would provide for examples of successful outcomes resulting from that nominee's practice. Well, Dr. Miller does a lot of things, as we all know, in cockroach stuff. So say Dr. Gouge, Dawn, was going to nominate Dr. Miller. Well, then she might actually say, well, what is Deanie's work How can it be an economic advantage? Maybe it was helping with the pest control industry versus positive environmental outcomes. So we all know that Dr. Dini works in public housing. Well, again, if they're not living with cockroaches, well, what's that outcome? Less allergens. I mean, that would be like the easy write-in, okay? What human health veterinary advantages has nominated? So again, maybe it's not human health. Maybe we're talking about a mosquito person, and I didn't get to scroll all the way down. But if we're talking about a vector management specialist, well, did you put in some things that maybe changed how people's behaviors? In other words, are they using repellents more or something like that? Rather than having a resume or a veto. For this award, we want some type of document or something that reflects that individual's commitment to IPM. I mean, it's been anything from a journal article to an extension publication to other things, websites. What is it? You get one shot of giving the committee a view of that person. And you have to understand, while I'm looking at the C's and the D's right now on my attendee list, okay, I know almost everybody on that list, but you have to assume that nobody knows you and nobody knows your nominee. So you have to write us a story that we get to learn about your nomination, which leads us to the next one. And I'm going to give this all props and credit to my committee members of Shaku and Toon Lee, because this has been one of those areas that we've really, really wanted. We wanted an IPM Practitioner Award that recognizes somebody in a non-academic setting. Pardon the grainy image, but this image is way old, because these are actually, the award actually went to Spring ISD, but that is the IPM coordinator and the IPM technician that actually were boots on the ground. The IPM Practitioner-Non-academic is just that. It is a boots on the ground. You do this every day, Brian McGee. Like I said, I went to the B's. Supervisor approval. We put that in there because we don't know who's going to apply, and if we don't want to get anybody in trouble, just put that in the skinny of the thing. If somebody is being nominated and you're nominating them, we want to make sure that their boss is okay with it. I mean, we have to do this in extension with some of our awards for our agents, so it's the same thing. We just want to make sure that we don't catch anybody flat-footed, heaven forbid. All right, this is simple, short essay. Now, I realize that a lot of folks who are boots on the ground may not be the best at writing. Please, 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 if you're struggling with finding someone to help you write, reach out to our committee. We will find somebody to help you write well. I get that. I mean, that's not my strongest of suits, but I mean, 20 years and I've been forced to. The essay needs to showcase what this individual, because we're talking about a person, does on a daily basis. How did they implement IPM? Is it at their university? Is it at a church? Is it out in an orchard? What steps took them to get from A to B to F? You may not have to get all the way to Z, because we want people to be encouraged by this. Was it a specific pest? Or, for instance, I'm looking at Spring ISD thinking, no, and since then, I mean, the pests down in that area have gone from, all right, yeah, fire ants and roaches, to, their new coordinator, when he called me and told me they had vultures nesting, that's not just something you deal with on a daily basis. So what are you doing as that individual? Depending on the scenario, don't limit yourself, and don't limit it to just an insect. Was it a disease? Was it a weed, something that was disruptive in a field? Or was it human behavior? Because no matter what you did, the humans kept leaving the dock doors open. Think through, what were those methods used? Okay, second question we're going to ask you. Again, these are all 300 words or less. Did the nominee pull together a team of resources? Again, there is no I in IPM. But if I was a practitioner, okay, I know that I've got to go get with the custodial person, or maybe I need to go get with this grower, or I need to get with this warehouse supervisor because they're not doing something. How did they assess that program or plan? Did you use any new innovative technology or practices? All right, I'll be honest with you. Some of the stuff that I've been seeing, even in my own state with my IPM agents, with some of this new technology of being able to sense watering and pressure and using drones and stuff. If you've done that and solved something in your area, definitely put that down. Did they communicate well with their clientele? What kind of record making? Especially if it's an IPM practitioner, generally that person is quote unquote the mayor of the IPM situation, because they got to go around and glad hand and make sure people are doing what they're doing. How do they do that? Okay, because they don't have publications. We want to know how they were successful at making those connections. All right, finally, describe the nominee's background or practice, current or past, especially if they're retired, work experience, education, certification, licensing. I will definitely say this, if you were nominating somebody who was in the community or urban IPM world, if they had an associate certified entomologist certification, that would be something. If they are an irrigation specialist, what kind of licenses do they have? Those are the types of things that tells us that they are committed, not just only at being IPM, but being an educated professional. Because remember, when we think of these awardees, we think of these individuals as our ambassadors going forward to promote IPM. List any honors or accomplishments. Provide any links to one article or document that might represent the nominee's work. Maybe they got a story in the local newspaper. That's okay with us. I'm not looking for some national publication. That's not what we want. We want something that looks at what did they do, how they do it. If you don't have it, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. We understand they are boots on the ground type of people. Okay, and again, existing reports. It could just be the report that, hey, I submit this report every year to my bosses. It says, this is what goes on. It's as simple as that. Web page, and or if you want to do something really wacky, because we're allowing the wacky for this, non-academic, we will take a small 10-minute video, and it could be that individual and their team going around and showing us what they do. I gotta admit, this is where we said we would give some creative license to individuals. So wow us. All right. IPM team group. This is program, project, organization. I know that there's an individual listening in the C group that knows these people on the background. But again, this has always been our biggest successor. We've always had some type of team award since the beginning of the symposium, because IPM, like I said, is all about team. So again, what team are we recognizing and what were they doing? And generally, like I said, it always focuses around something specific. So what was that program's accomplishments? What were the goals of the program? Why did you take on it? Brown marmorated stink bug. Let's see, I think Stop Pest got one for the bed bugs. Like I said, there's a couple of the sterile insects that were awarded. Muck crops was another one. I mean, the reason I love being on this awards committee, I'll be very honest with everybody, is this. I love reading the awards. I love learning about IPM, and this is the best way for us to learn. Describing that level of integration across pests, commodities, systems, and or disciplines that were involved. Again, it may not be all plant pathologist. It may be an entomologist. It may be an economist. Who was in your group? What's about that team? What outcomes? What was the biggest success of the program? Providing evidence of change of knowledge, behavior, or condition. Okay, that's a given because this follows the roadmap. All right, if you're not familiar with the USDA IPM roadmap, it's linked on our awards page and or you can Google it. All right, provide evidence of client adoption. If you've done any evaluations, which most of us do not write us a major technical report, but do give us a couple of highlights. We just want to know what you did and how you did it. Evidence of client adoption, again, describe the team building process. How did it work? Those types of things. Did you go outside of your comfort zone and get somebody else because you needed to change behavior with a group and you needed to get that community link, whomever that might be? And again, did this project use any innovative methods? This is the one, again, I said it on the non-academic. This one, especially with a lot of that stuff that I was talking about with the newer technology, I can see where if that really made a difference, chasing a specific pest, then definitely use that, highlight that. Okay. The final awards that I'm going to talk about is for graduate student. Like I said, at the symposium in Baltimore last year, it was our first time to do it, and we had a few nominations, but I will say this, the two winners we had have since graduated, and I mean, where they're going and what they're doing has been great to watch. So we have two nominations. You have PhD candidate and a master's candidate. The difference between this, and we did take this, I will be honest, we stole this from the IPM Center who offers the Friends of IPM Award. But what we allow is each university to nominate 3 individuals if they so fit. Let me make a very bold statement. When you nominate this student, please know this student. It was very evident on a couple of the nominations the last time who knew their student and who didn't. And based on that is how we actually got the awardees. Because when you know the student, the letter will have not only their academic performance, but what they've done out in field work. And the field work doesn't necessarily have to be out in a field scouting cotton. It could. Or it could be in a lab counting crepe myrtle bark scale. It could be anything in between or outside of those bounds. They're just using IPM because what we need to know is their relevance to IPM. I mean, if you're doing bioassays, great, but what does that do for us in the bigger world of integrated pest management? Because these student awards almost set these kids, and I'm going to call them kids because at this stage of my life, they could be almost my grandkids, heaven forbid. But these are the future of IPM. So we want to know, did they involve any stakeholders? What kind of things are they doing in their graduate program to set them apart, not just as an individual, but also as an awardee nominee that will put them on a platform for a much bigger and better career? So are they involved with any student organizations? I mean, it doesn't have to be in their field. Maybe they're something else. Maybe they're, especially now, I mean, if they've taken up the charge because they thought that they wanted to help the homeless population, that's okay, because that tells me that they've also got that willingness or that leadership to serve. And I keep saying I only because I can't speak for we. That sounds a little creepy, just FYI. Have they published any extension publications? Have they co-authored any research? I mean, if you are their graduate professor and they're co-authoring with you, then yes. Do they have any teaching assistantships? What about professional? I mean, have they participated in their local branch of whatever and done any presentations? And like I said, any volunteer work. We want to know basically how well-rounded is the individual. Okay. Finally, on the graduate student, how has this nominee demonstrated strong potential to provide leadership in IPM? Again, this one I will tell you, on some of these nominees, it was almost like you were looking at a window into, here's what they're going to do in the future. So again, how has this nominee shown his or her ability to work with others or a team to build a project? And it could just be, you know, maybe they were on a Linnaean team, but they had to really work to get their members together. I mean, I'm just trying to throw out examples for everybody because we try to anticipate when we do this, but anticipation is, crystal balls are not my thing. All right. Any questions thus far? Because I'm about to switch into scoring. Mohammed, do you have a question?
I've got his questions answered at this time.
Okay. Okay. Just making sure. All right. Then moving forward, how do we score? This started, actually, we started doing weighted scoring a couple of sessions back when Pete Goodell was the chair, and we just kept it because we feel that if you fill out a form and we ask you specific questions, there is a way for us to actually weight everything. So one of the things we look at is general format. And what I mean by that is write the document first in Word, make sure your grammar's right. I mean, not for nothing, we were all adults. We're not teens and we're not texting. We want to see complete sentences. I want to see good structure. I mean, these are the things that, you know, the entire committee will look at. Roadmap objectives. Okay, did they have any? The IPM roadmap stuff is improving economic returns by reducing input costs and or improving product or service quality. That's one of the big objectives for IPM, has always been economic. However, I work in the world of school IPM. There is no economic. So then we look at reducing human health risks. Is there something that is associated with that? Yes, if you are doing stuff with cockroaches and you're literally reducing that population, well, you're also hopefully reducing those allergens. So there would be your health risk. Minimizing adverse environmental effects from pests or pest management activities. That has to go back to how do you do stuff? Are you being a good steward of the environment? Just think about all the things that is IPM, okay? So when we're talking about these roadmap objectives, we're wanting to know, what do you do for prevention? What do you do to integrate? Do you anticipate? How? I mean, I realize in the ag world, 3/4 of our anticipation is what's the weather going to do tomorrow? But again, there are some trends we do know. Do you know that you're going to have a problem with a certain type of weed or something like that? What type of forecasting? So again, trying to give us, when you're writing your answers, remember the roadmap and think about how that relates to your project. For the team awards, why was the project conducted or implemented? If you say because it was a good idea, I'll hunt you down and smack you. No, I'm just kidding. But we want to know, did it start because of a grant? Did it start because a couple of producers came to you and said, hey, we're seeing some really weird stuff? And then it turned out to be, and this is going back a few years, sugarcane aphid. All right, well, that became a game changer. So again, why was it conducted? Why was it implemented? For individuals, what did they do to implement IPM? What sets them apart? What makes them worthy of being nominated for this award? Just doing your job isn't just doing your job, but what else did you do or that individual do to set them apart? How was the project conducted? Who did it? We want to know that team building. Can I say that 15 more times? Did you hear team? And what was accomplished by this project? This is the part, like I said, that makes me really, really happy, because this is where I get to learn about some wild projects that I'm like I said, the one about muck crops, I was like, what the heck is a muck crop? And then after we learned, I was like, oh, so there's things called pulse crops, and it in a certain valley and what they can do. It was very, like I said, very enlightening. So let's take an example of learning from past winners. I noticed that somebody put in there, can you get a copy of the presentation? Yeah, we're going to post everything up on the website. And I will tell you, I mean, you'll be able to go back and view this. The other thing that's also on the IPM Symposium website is some of the packets from past winners. We've done that purposely. I mean, nothing like giving you an example by giving you a real example. So again, I'm not going to go through every application, but I want you guys to understand that we, as the International IPM Symposium, not just the awards committee, but the steering committee, the program committee, everybody that is involved with the symposium values this portion of it. Because if we don't recognize each other, who else will? Because a lot of times what we do, it's so multidisciplinary that it's hard to get an award through your main source of professional development. So for instance, for me in the Entomological Society, well, there is no IPM Team Award for what we do. So this would be where I would go. Again, describe the team building process. I mentioned the muck crop. Okay. The program involves a team of university researchers, private industry, extension specialists, and local growers association and the Holland Marsh Growers Association. This goes through and tells you who led it, why they led it, and then how things progressed. I mean, this will all be there so that you guys can see it, but this is just the basics of, okay, here we go. Another one, and everybody loved when I say this one, the Okanagan Sterile Insect Release Program, which I had to really practice back a couple of years back. Again, codling moth, that was the quote unquote pest, the crop, okay? Again, fruit growers, not just any fruit growers, because these were orchard growers. Again, codling moth, if it goes in, can destroy apple orchards unbelievably. This team actually taught us, oh, okay, here's what sterile insect is, this is what's going on, this is how they did stuff. I mean, it was very interesting. Lifetime achievement. So one of the questions we ask is describe the level of integration across pest systems or other disciplines that were involved. This is taken literally from Dr. Norton's application, but in his modest, low-key fashion, which is definitely describing George Norton, if you've ever met the man, is a true integrator of teams. And again, Dr. Norton has done a lot. I mean, he's done the IPM Innovation Lab. He's done some stuff with USDA and EPA. He's done stuff in other countries. But what they did was, instead of, writing days of paragraphs, all right, highlight 14 nations where he's worked. In India, they gave us a timeline. Philippines, they gave us a timeline. Bangladesh, Nepal, Ecuador. The US, because he's always. And then other products that projects, not products, where he's been. What types of pests, okay? These are the most common that he's worked on. All right, diseases, weeds, crops, disciplines. They used their 500 words and used it in a way to give us a view into Dr. Norton, the entomologist, the IPM champion, not just here's my Vita and you figure it out. Letters of support versus documentation. Okay, on this one, again, this was more of, these are the things that actually document what this award winner was, versus this one was, here's a letter supporting the sterile insect release, and it was more of a letter, okay? We are writing to support this group. Whereas this one, because this was for an academic, and instead of having that one document that just highlights, they took this and actually just made it into one document with, here's the activities that promote that individual. Okay, wrapping up. Showcase the positive. We want to hear the success story. That's what the whole awards thing's about. We want to know the successes. Make sure someone unrelated to you, what I mean by that is you're not the only one reading it, read this. Have somebody else read it. Read it for clarity, read it for making sure it makes sense. Because I can tell you guys, I can write something and I will miss the wrong tense and or, because grammar check doesn't get that, and maybe the comma or whatever. When it pulls over into Qualtrics, once it's there, it's very hard to fix. So what we want is to make sure that your packet looks really good. Start now, okay? We've got a little bit of a time, but if you don't start now and start figuring out who you're going to nominate, what you need to collect, how you're going to do it, then, a rushed application never wins. Never. A well thought out, organized application does. Because again, the weighting will show it. Finally, make sure again that everybody proofreads, does everything. We've got the right contact information, your phone number, everything. Just to kind of showcase from the last International IPM Symposium, a couple of things that we actually were able to also include that had not been included in the past. Having our winners present. Last time we did it in one session and had all the presenters present. This time our goal is to hopefully mix those award winners throughout the sessions so that their work is more visible to those that would appreciate it. So for instance, for Dr. Gouge, who is an urban school IPM person, rather than her giving her award like she did in this session, it would be moved to something like the structural urban sessions, and we would then recognize that individual there. Something that is not going to change, and I will tell you this is probably one of the things that makes my little heart sing, is having our lifetime achievement winners as our closing plenary speakers. Because again, these individuals, this is Dr. Pete Goodell. Pete and I worked on this committee. That's how I actually met him, but we became friends over time. But learning from Pete as time progressed, even outside of the lifetime achievement, and then seeing him present this was extremely uplifting for me. And that's what it's supposed to be for everybody else. We want to close out our symposium by lifting everyone up, by seeing those who have done good work and know that you can achieve it, because anybody can achieve good IPM. The other award winner is Dr. Frank Zalem. It was interesting because of the weather, he was delayed. He couldn't get his award in front of everybody on the Monday evening. So we did a double thing before or after he spoke. We literally presented him his award. Behind me, and who's like on top of my head in this image, is Dr. George Norton. Like I said, Dr. Norton was the previous winner. So, and he actually introduced both Drs. Goodell and Zalem for the final session. The other thing that we were able to do, we didn't have many people take it up, was if you win and you want to publish in the Journal of Integrated Pest Management, we waive the fee so that you can publish for free. Now, granted, Journal of IPM is an open publication, it's on the web, but again, publishing a success story is different than actually producing research. One of the things that we do hope to offer at our symposium in Denver next March is a learning session on how to submit and write an article for JIPM. But again, our award winners are automatically given that opportunity. And this is just a copy of one of the articles that was submitted. Oscar Ortiz and his team were a winner, were one of our team of winners last year, like I said, for IPM Late Blight, but they also were able to publish in the Journal of IPM. So again, we try to help promote our winners. Anything we can do to help promote IPM, that is what we are here for. Again, just some final images as we wrap up. If you've got any questions, either pop them in the chat pod or raise your hand or tell Joe you want to chat. Again, just to show, Annie Rich was not able to come to the symposium. Again, there was some weather and some other issues going on at the time. One of our committee members actually went to her and presented to her at a meeting there in Georgia. I want you to know she had no idea it was coming, and we shocked her. Zach, again, this was one of his awards. Zach has graduated and now is working at the University of Kentucky. Again, a team award for Wayne Gardner. By the way, this young lady that's sitting right here, that is Shaku, one of my teammates. Okay. Again, Oscar and his team, Kelly Tillman and her team, and then the Prism Group, and Dr. Faith Oy. And finally, if you haven't visited the website and you haven't thought about submitting a symposia talk, can I interest you that today as well? We are always looking for people to present. And sometimes we feel like we're presenting to the choir. We welcome anyone to come to this symposium. This is open to all disciplines and all backgrounds. And the only way we're going to get people there is if you submit a talk as well. If you're not comfortable in talking in person, how about a poster? We'll take your poster as well. There will also be a student poster contest that will be coming out later this year. But I just want everybody to know that this is probably, if you're an IPM disciple like myself, this is the home for you. And with that,
You do have a couple questions in the question box. First one is from Dr. Jagdish. Can we include both one disease and one insect pest management for nominations for the IPM Team Award?
yes, you can combine them, or if you want to separate them, but I would say combine them.
Okay. You also have a question from Jody Gangloff-Kaufman. If the potential nominee is retiring and will not likely be attending the symposium, how would the award be presented? Could it be done as a webinar with the awardee zoomed into the ceremony?
Yeah. Or if there's a way that we could, that's why I said when you're filling out the boxes, you may say, not sure. Because again, maybe the individual would think, oh, well, okay, I can travel to Denver for a night. But that's where we would work with you. If awarded, we'll definitely work with you. Any others, Joe? Because mine are not coming in, the questions.
Yeah, I cannot view the questions either.
Yes, another one. For the team award, do you nominate one team leader and then expand on the work in the rest of the application, or how does that work?
Typically on those nominations, yes. Well, the team may be, so for instance, let me back up and I'll give you an example. Where is he? All right, here. Kelly. So this was the North Central Soybean Entomology Research and Extension Team. It was the team name. Kelly Tillman actually was the contact person. She was not the person who was didn't do the nomination, but she was the point person for the team. Through the nomination, others were mentioned. So it wasn't just Dr. Tillman, it was how many other people with her, and they would list that. I mean, you don't have to go through, oh, well, it was John Perry, and he is a extension entomologist with Oklahoma State, and he's been there for 50 years. No, you can be brief on that, but what we want to know is on that team, who are your team players? Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If you want, so this is Shakti. I just wanted to add that we just want to know what the team did as a team, as a whole. And, in the supporting documentation, feel free to list out the team members, each of them, and what each of them did, all of that information. But in the application itself, just focus on what the team is doing or has done.
Okay, I'm pulling up, and it's going to look a little fuzzy, but you see this awards page, and you can see here. Okay, if I scroll down, you can see a lot of what's written. I believe, yeah. I don't think we got them posted for last year's, but I can say for 2015, if anybody is interested, you can go to the 2015 and you can literally look at how it was written. Okay? If this helps anybody, that's what this is for.
We do have one individual with their hand raised. So Hari Kashans Dini, I'm going to attempt to unmute your mic now. You should be online. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, thank you. My question is that the entire application has to be submitted by the nominator, or the nominee can also submit the application by simply indicating the name of the nominator?
It can be, you can self-nominate. It's just what we generally say is those self-nomination reports, those awards, aren't as well written as if somebody else nominates that individual.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah.
Sure. Oh.
We do have another question, and from Dawn, it's a long one. Can you see in your question section? I can also.
Thanks,
Okay.
Boosh.
I wonder if it would be possible to have an app poll-driven innovation award that attendees could nominate a particular poster or presenter for recognition, certificate to be sent after the event. But folks could be recognized during the awards. Minimal effort for you folks, other than building something into the app, but might increase award engagement and increase recognition of work from emerging scientists. I do not recommend criteria, just simply recognize innovation, no self-nominations. Given the number of posters or presentations, the winner could simply get 2 votes as opposed to 1.
I don't even know how to answer that one, Don.
I'm going with that being a suggestion more than a question.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's more of a suggestion. Thanks, Don. Yeah. Joe, we can save these questions, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Mohammed has a question. I'm going to unmute his mic. Go ahead, Mohammed.
Yes, I have a question that any awardee in the past can apply to any other IPM awards which he or she was not nominated before?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that has ever prevented anybody from resubmitting if they didn't win the last time, or submitting again, or any of that. There has never been.
Right. There's no rule like that. Yeah.
I can't imagine somebody resubmitting for a lifetime achievement, but because usually those people have typically retired by then, but no, there's nothing in our rules that says no.
Thanks, Derek.
If anyone else has questions, I can unmute your line, or you can type it in the chat, either way.
Or since we are rolling up on 11 o'clock, I'm more than happy to let everybody go. Well, okay, everybody. Thank you for joining us. As stated in the chat pod, but just for everybody's clarification, yes, this has been recorded. It will probably be posted within the next 48 hours on that international IPM website. So until then, if you've got questions, you'll notice that there's plenty of contact information here on the International IPM Symposium site. If you've got questions, you can contact Michelle Marquette, Shakun Nayar, or myself, Janet Hurley, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you again for attending, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. Stay safe, stay healthy.